Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping in for a look at something that sounds maybe a bit dry, corporate internal accounting rules, but trust me, it actually dictates success, failure, and, well, motivation for managers everywhere.
That's right.
We're diving into the, let's call it strategic minefield, known as transfer pricing. Basically how companies charge themselves.
It really does sound like just internal bookkeeping, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that view totally misses the huge strategic importance. Transfer pricing is, simply put, the cost one division charges another division for goods or services they provide internally.
Yeah.
So Division A makes a part, Division B needs it for their product. The price A charges B. That's the transfer price.
And the key objective, the thing we're really digging into based on our source material, is crystal clear. To describe and assess the effect of transfer prices on divisional performance evaluation. Because let's face it, if you set that price wrong,
Oh, yeah?
it doesn't just move money around on paper, it completely messes up the internal scorecards, right?
Yeah.
A price that's too high makes the buyer look bad, inefficient.
Exactly. Unprofitable, even.
And if it's too low, the seller looks like they're barely pulling their weight.
Precisely. The price is never neutral. It hits profit margins, investment choices, manager bonuses, you name it.
Okay.
And to help us get our heads around this, the source material lays out a pretty clear structure. It separates these methods into three main paths: opportunity cost, practical prices, and dual pricing.
Okay, good. Let's unpack that. Starting with maybe the most common one, the big branch. Practical prices. This is where most companies operate day to day, right? Using fairly straightforward rules-based prices.
That's the one.
Our source lists, I think, 4 main operational methods here, plus a kind of strategic layer we need to talk about. So let's kick off with the benchmark, the ideal scenario.
Right. The ideal, if you can get it, is market price. If Division A's component is also sold out there on the open market, well, using that external price internally is usually the fairest way. It's objective.
Makes sense.
It basically forces both divisions to act like they're competing in the real market. Keeps everyone honest, you know?
Yeah, the market price is the great equalizer, isn't it? But, okay, what if there isn't an external market? Or maybe the internal product is super specialized.
That's where it gets tricky.
That's when we have to get into cost-based pricing, and that sounds like it opens up a whole can of worms immediately.
It does. And the most common alternative here is cost plus. Now, this is really crucial because the type of cost plus you choose directly impacts whether the selling division is actually motivated to, control its costs.
Okay.
We've got two main flavors: full cost plus and variable cost plus.
Right. Let's focus on that distinction. Full cost plus sounds comprehensive. Seller recovers everything. Fixed costs, variable costs, plus a markup for profit. Sounds safe, right? So why could that be hazardous for performance evaluation?
Well, think about the incentives. If you know you can just pass on all your fixed costs, rent, admin, salaries, depreciation, whatever, onto the buyer through the price, why would you break your back trying to find cheaper ways to do things or streamline? The real danger here is that full cost plus can hide inefficiency inside the selling division.
Okay.
Their performance report looks fine, maybe even good. They're guaranteed a profit, essentially. But their underlying cost structure might be totally bloated compared to the market.
So the very method that seems to guarantee profit is actually masking poor performance. And that cost burden just gets shifted downstream to the buying division, messing up their performance numbers too.
Exactly right, which is why sometimes companies opt for variable cost plus. This one's leaner. The transfer price only covers the direct variable cost to make that specific unit, plus the markup.
Okay.
It's much better for short-term decisions like, should we take this internal order? Because it clearly shows the extra contribution margin you'd make.
But I'm guessing variable cost plus, or VCP, has its own downside for evaluating performance overall.
It absolutely does, yes. While it might push the seller to manage variable costs better, it totally ignores their fixed costs.
Right.
So it's really hard to see if they're truly profitable long-term or covering their investments.
Right.
Great for contribution analysis, like you said, pretty terrible for seeing the full profit picture of that division.
Okay, so full cost plus can hide inefficiency. Variable cost plus hides the fixed cost burden. What if we strip it down even further to the absolute bare bones? That takes us to marginal cost, doesn't it?
That's the razor's edge, yeah. Marginal cost pricing sets the price based only on the additional cost to produce that one extra unit. Often ignores even bits of overhead that are technically variable.
Like the classic coffee example, the cost of the beans and milk for one more cup, assuming the shop's already open.
Exactly that kind of thing. It's fantastic for internal efficiency analysis sometimes. It makes sure the buying division is always incentivized to buy internally because the price is rock bottom. But the selling division, they never recover their fixed costs through this price. They look awful on their performance report. Terrible for morale. Terrible for evaluating their actual contribution.
So we've got market price, full cost plus, variable cost plus, marginal cost, all mathematically derived, all leading to potentially wildly different performance outcomes. What happens if the managers just can't agree? If Division A wants full cost plus and Division B wants marginal?
Then you often end up with the political solution. Negotiated price.
Right. Bargaining time.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Prices get hammered out through direct negotiation between the division managers. It tends to work best when both sides actually have decent outside options. Gives them leverage.
So they can walk away if the internal deal is bad.
Exactly. It's like letting them run their own little businesses within the company, trying to get the best deal for their own scorecard.
That sounds like it could easily turn into just internal squabbles, where maybe the best negotiator wins, not necessarily what's best for the company overall.
It definitely can be. And that brings us perfectly to this crucial underpinning concept that the source material highlights right alongside these methods: goal behavior.
Okay, why is this listed here? It's not a price itself?
No, it's not a price, but it's the outcome, the reason we pick a certain price. The source really hammers this home. Whichever price you choose, market, cost plus, negotiated, whatever come, must align the division's goals with the overall company's goals.
Goal congruence.
Precisely. If your transfer price makes a manager make a decision that helps their division's numbers but hurts the company overall, then your goals are misaligned. Your performance evaluation system is flawed.
Can you give us a quick example? Like, what does that misalignment look like in practice?
Okay, let's use market price again. Say Division A sells internally at $100, the market price. But Division B finds they can buy a slightly, maybe lower quality version outside for $98.
Okay.
Now, if Division B's manager is judged purely on cutting costs...
They'll buy externally for $98.
Right. Even if the actual cost for the company to make that part internally in Division A is only, say, $60, the manager hits their cost target, looks good.
But the company loses out. It loses the $40 contribution margin, $100 market price, $60 internal cost, or forces Division A to find other buyers, potentially idling capacity.
Exactly. That's a suboptimal decision driven purely by the transfer pricing rule and how performance is measured. The manager's goal, cost saving, clashes with the company's goal, overall profit.
That really clarifies why just picking a price isn't enough. You have to think about the behavior it drives. Okay, so we've seen how these practical prices can sometimes cause problems, especially if the seller has valuable outside options, which seems to lead us towards the next big approach, the opportunity cost approach.
Yeah, now we shift gears a bit. We move from the sort of day-to-day transaction mechanics to the underlying economic logic. And the source frames this specifically from the selling division's perspective.
Right, so why is focusing on opportunity costs so important for a performance evaluation? Why not just use the market price if one exists, or the most rational cost-based price?
Yeah, because ultimately performance evaluation should measure what that division truly contributes, or, in this case, gives up for the good of the company. Opportunity cost captures that economic sacrifice.
Okay.
For the selling division, the key question becomes, what profit are we giving up by selling this internally instead of selling it in our best external alternative market?
Got it. So if Division A could sell 100 units outside for a $50 profit each, but they sell them internally to Division B for a price that only gives them a $30 profit.
Their performance evaluation needs to somehow reflect that lost $20 per unit. That $50 potential profit is the benchmark of their contribution.
Otherwise, their internal scorecard makes them look less valuable than they really are to the company.
Precisely. If the transfer price ignores that lost external opportunity, their metrics are wrong, and frankly, their motivation is going to tank. Now, when we use this approach, the source emphasizes we need to look at it from 3 angles to make sure we're seeing the whole picture.
Okay, what are they?
First, obviously, the selling division perspective we just talked about, capturing their sacrifice.
Yeah.
Second, the buying division perspective. What's the cost to them? How does this opportunity cost-based price affect their decisions? Because if it's super high,
they might stop buying internally or even shut down operations if it makes them look unprofitable, even if the company needs their output.
Exactly. And third, and this is crucial, the overall company perspective. Does this whole transaction, even if one division's numbers look a bit worse on paper, actually maximize the company's total profit and use resources best?
That makes sense. The opportunity cost approach forces a wider view. Look beyond the single transaction. Consider the full economic impact, which, as you say, is vital for proper performance evaluation. It highlights that the best price economically isn't always the easiest one to calculate or the one managers liked best.
And it often throws a painful conflict into sharp relief. What's genuinely best for the selling division, usually a high price reflecting their opportunity cost, is often really bad for the buying division's performance report because it means a high input cost for them.
Right. Which leads us neatly to the final method mentioned in our source, dual pricing. Sounds like a way to solve that conflict.
It is. Dual pricing is often positioned as that strategic compromise. It's basically an admission that sometimes a single transfer price just cannot meet the performance measurement needs of both the buyer and the seller at the same time.
Okay, so instead of making one division lose so the other can win on the internal scorecard, dual pricing uses two different numbers. How does that work?
Well, the source mainly identifies it as a distinct strategy rather than detailing the mechanics, but the common approach is this. The selling division gets credited with a high transfer price. Maybe market price, maybe opportunity cost-based.
So they look good, reflecting their potential contribution.
Exactly. Keeps them motivated. But at the same time, the buying division is charged a lower transfer price, often something closer to marginal or variable cost.
So that encourages them to buy the product internally and helps their profit margin look healthy.
Precisely.
So wait, if Division A gets credited $100, but Division B only pays $60, where does the extra $40 come from or go?
That difference, the $40 in your example, usually gets absorbed by a central corporate account, like a clearing account specifically for transfer pricing adjustments.
Okay.
Corporate essentially subsidizes the internal transaction to make sure both managers get the right signals for decision-making and performance measurement. It resolves the inherent tension. Seller sees high revenue, buyer sees low cost. Goal alignment achieved, even when a single price couldn't do it.
Right. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for the listener. What's the big takeaway here? We've seen transfer pricing isn't just picking a number. It's a whole strategic framework. You've got choices, market price, different flavors of cost plus, the deeper economic view of opportunity cost, or this conflict solver, dual pricing, and every single choice hits that core objective divisional performance evaluation.
Absolutely. How you assess performance is completely tied to the transfer price you choose. And that really shows that management accounting isn't just, scorekeeping after the fact.
Yeah.
It actively shapes behavior.
Yeah.
If you're managing a division, your bonus, maybe even your career path, could hinge entirely on how the company decides to set these internal prices.
So let's bring it back to you, the listener, thinking strategically. Imagine you're tasked with evaluating the performance of a selling division. And you know they use full cost plus transfer pricing exclusively. That means they charge the buying division, their variable costs, their fixed costs, plus a markup. Knowing what we've just discussed, what red flags or limitations would immediately jump out at you when you look at their performance report?
Think back to those incentives we talked about. What does full cost plus allow or even encourage the selling division to do? Especially regarding their costs. You'd know, wouldn't you, that their reported profit might be, well, let's say, comfortable.
Yeah, possibly inflated.
Possibly inflated.
Yeah.
Because they have very little financial pressure from the transfer price itself to really clamp down on those fixed costs. Rent, admin overhead, maybe even inefficiencies in depreciation schedules.
They can just pass it all on.
They can just pass it all on to the internal buyer. So that performance report needs a closer look, doesn't it? You need to ask, are these costs truly efficient? How do they stack up against potential external benchmarks? Because the full cost plus method itself might be hiding operational slack that wouldn't survive out in the open market.
That's a fantastic point to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Hopefully this gives everyone a clearer picture of the hidden strategic weight behind those internal accounting rules and a much better sense of why that number on an internal invoice is really never just a number.